I mentioned earlier that Brig was yelling at me on YouTube in the comment section on YouTube, and it was because of my my overrated player selection. I'm gonna go with Babe Ruth. I've got Bryce Harper at number 2. I'm gonna go with Derek Jeter as my number 1. So those were my 3 most overrated players. Yeah, I went there. I did go there. That's true.
I listen. Listen. you, you can't boo. You cannot pick Babe Ruth. You can't. He's the Sultan of SWAT.
The Colossus of Clout, the Great Bambino.
The Colossus of Clout. That wimpy deer, bro. You cannot. It's just, God, I'm so mad at you.
Okay. But Brig, okay.
No. No.
You really want to tell me that he would come in today's game and hit 60 home runs?
We're not talking about today's game, bro.
Okay. But that's why he's overrated. Yes, he was the best player in his era, but he's not the best player ever.
Yes.
He's not the best player ever.
He was the best player in his era, bro. The whole thing has changed since then.
Yeah, it's been 100 years.
Everything has changed.
100 years. You cannot call the best player in a sport from 100 years ago the best player in the history of the game.
I never said he was the best player in the history of the game. I'm saying he's not on the overrated list, is what I'm saying.
And the only reason I'm saying he's overrated is because people treat him like his game would translate to today, and it would not.
I'm not saying it would.
I think Babe Ruth would be
an
average to slightly above average player in today's game.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
You heard me. You heard me right.
You're telling me, stop it. You're telling me that Babe Ruth was not athletic enough, intelligent enough, dedicated enough, whatever you want to call it, to adapt and overcome and find ways to succeed in today's game.
Do you think he'd be a right fielder in today's game?
No, of course he wouldn't be a right fielder in today's game.
Okay, how about this? Who is his comp in today's game?
Now, that is a great question, and I think the only person we can I don't know, actually. That's because part of me wants to say Big Sexy, but I don't know. But that's a stature thing.
It is a stature thing. I will say this. I do think Babe Ruth was likely more athletic than Big Sexy. I'll give him that.
Oh, for sure. And for those of you that don't know, Big Sexy is Bartolo Colon. Okay. He for sure was more athletic than Colon. And not that Colon's not athletic. He absolutely is phenomenal. Yeah. But
I mean, he's doing something
we love Bartolo Colon, okay? We will never disparage Big Sexy, not 1 minute. The dude is awesome. Except for the whole PED problem. But we're not going to talk about that because we still a little bit love him, okay? Here's the deal, though. It's a great question. And I think you probably posed the question to further illustrate your point that there is no comparable translation of his stature and skill into today's game.
Okay, off the cuff, 2 guys come to mind. Daniel Vogelbach.
I doubt it. But only as of the last, 18 months.
Well, I'm not saying Daniel Vogelbach is a great player. I like him.
Right. Yeah.
See what I'm saying? And Kyle Schwarber.
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, but Kyle Schwarber couldn't pitch the way the Babe could, bro.
I think anybody could pitch back then. I think
Babe
everybody
is one of the
pitched
best
back
pitchers
then.
in Red Sox history, dude.
Because of who he was facing.
I don't care.
And I understand he's a victim of his era. I understand that. But you cannot treat him.
That's the only problem.
Like he is. I wouldn't even consider the Babe top 5 player of all time.
I'm not saying. Listen, I'm not saying he's the top 5 player of all time.
Okay.
I'm saying he doesn't belong on the overrated list.
And that's my thing is I'm saying that he's overrated because people still treat him like he is a top 5 player. Yes, the name is hollowed because he was the greatest player of his era. He ended the dead ball era. I'll give him all that. But at the same time,
for sure,
you cannot call somebody that played in his time. You can't treat him like people do. People treat the Babe like he's Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan was by far the best player. Well, I shouldn't say by far. He was the greatest player in NBA history, and I'm a LeBron James fan. Now, ever, because his game would translate to any era, and he would dominate. Zero questions asked.
Yes, absolutely. And I would say, listen, I would say the same thing about Nolan Ryan. Mm-hmm. You could put Nolan Ryan into any situation on the mound, even in the dead ball era, even before they had a mound, and that dude would sling just gas heat. Yes. Man, that he would go unhitted. I don't care. You could put him 50 years from now, and he's still going to go hitless.
It's true. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that.
So I see what you're saying. I agree with you.
Is that people are treating the Babe like he's the Michael Jordan of baseball, and that A is a problem for baseball, and B just is not true.
No, I agree with that. But what I'm arguing is that you cannot, if you remove that argument, you still cannot argue with the fact that he does not belong on the overrated player list because he defined decades of baseball.
Yes.
He literally, and then generations who came after him who tried to live up to what he put on the table. Mm-hmm. So the reason we have home run races is because of the Babe. The reason we care about swagger, like standing in the box or calling a shot or whatever, is because of the Bambino, bro. You cannot separate baseball from its history. We are a culture obsessed with our own history.
That is absolutely true.
Even more so than we really ever care to consider our future, as evidenced recently. And there's another Rob Manfred dig. But what I'm saying is you cannot deny that you just can't put him on overrated player list. You can't.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
And I think it all comes down to your criteria for overrated player. Personally, with my criteria of an overrated player, he fits. Generally speaking, probably not. How's that?
All right, listen. You can't have it both ways, Brad. You can't. And you've already gone on the record. And I'm not trying to persuade you.
And I'm not trying to recant. I'm not trying to recant.
It's fine. It sounds like you're a little sidestepping a little bit, which is fine. You're allowed to do that. I'm just saying he doesn't belong on the transcendent list for sure. Unless you want to heavily weight influence, then absolutely belongs on the transcendent list.
There's a league. Sure. There is a league named after him. I will full on say like the Babe's influence on baseball was transcendent. The fact that there is a league named after him, and the same argument that I made then was that Steph Curry has eliminated the center from the NBA, but that doesn't make him a top 5 player of all time or a transcendent player. Yes, he shoots three-pointers better than anybody else, but there are gaps in his game that would not translate to other eras.
So, okay, let's talk transcendence. Let's just talk transcendence. Let's talk transcendence. Okay? Let's say we're going to include transcendence as a bullet point, as a requirement, okay? If you're going to say transcendence is a requirement, then you absolutely cannot call Derek Jeter overrated. You can't do it.
Call Derek Jeter overrated?
Yeah. Some people do.
And I did.
I know. I listened to it. I threw things. It was undignified. I may or may not have been dipping into the anger phase of my grieving process. I'm just saying.
Hey, as long as I can help you through the process.
That was a service few people could have provided as effectively as you did.
Going Babe 3, Jeter 1. Just zipped right on through that anger phase, didn't you?
I just whoosh. We're just accelerating. And that's really, I'm grateful because I threw things and it was fun.
So Brig,
oh my
let's get fully caught up here because I know that you've been itching to give us your 3 most overrated players. Well, I don't know if itching is the way to go, but you're going to give us 3 overrated players.
Yeah, and I'm going to do it strategically.
Okay.
Because why would I do it any other way?
That's right.
So, okay. first, I'm gonna give you my number 3.
Okay.
And I'm gonna move eras here, okay, and I'm gonna do so on purpose. First, I'm gonna go with John Rocker.
Okay. I don't think anybody would disagree with you.
No, and partly because the 9+Us VIP group and Facebook, they voted John Rocker's most overrated player of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot disagree that he is absolutely deserving on the overrated list.
Yeah.
100%. Okay, I don't even feel like I need to justify that.
Mm-hmm.
He has a WAR of 3.5. Okay.
Yeah.
Literally. Also, his stint on Survivor would just probably reinforce all of. It's terrible. Although apparently there are a significant number of people who find him extremely attractive, and that's
strange.
Probably what he has going for him right now.
Maybe,
so that's great.
I don't know.
Okay.
Anyways,
only bring that up because I saw it on a list. That's it. I don't know. I thought, oh, interesting. Maybe because I got to give him, I got to sandwich some positivity in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
My number 2 overrated player is going to be a little controversial. I got to go with a current player. I think current players deserve some notoriety and a place, a section maybe on the overrated list.
Okay.
It was heavily discussed in the VIP group to include not only this player but some other current contemporary players, and I got to give it to Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah.
I think that his one season in Miami with all those home runs and all that everything, it was the MVP season. It was awesome. It really was. And then he stumbled maybe drunkenly or whatever into this contract with New York, and I don't understand, guys.
That contract was actually given to him by Miami, and then they're like, oh, wait, we can't afford that. We got to trade him. So,
that's what I'm saying, man.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened. I'm still confused.
Well, the thing, my big thing with Stanton, I feel like his swing is broken. But he's just so big and strong, the ball goes out anyway. That he swings hard through like one zone, and if the pitcher happens to put the ball there, he's going to hit it out, and that's why he strikes out all the time.
Right, of course.
And I don't know if it's some version of the yips because he took that fastball to the face from none other than Mike Fiers.
Right.
That that maybe he, like I said, has some version of the yips, but
I don't think so.
It's been a long time. I don't think that he does.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
But yeah,
and a whole literal identity change later.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm going to give him that one right now.
But no,
I will
agree
say
with you
though,
that he does belong on the list.
He belongs on the list, and I'll put an asterisk next to his name for sure. Like same with Bryce Harper. A lot of people talk about Bryce Harper being overrated for sure. Okay, I can get that.
Yeah.
But he's also made a lot of progress. Just in the last season, when his first season in Philadelphia, and you got to give him some props there. Yeah. So I feel like the contemporary players deserve a transitional placement, whatever, on the list. But I think Giancarlo Stanton, if he's not careful, he's going to solidify himself.
Yes.
And really, it all has to do with that contract. Because I don't think that that if you took all of his statistics and if you took all of his career and put it together, then he doesn't belong on an overrated list. He doesn't belong on an underrated list. He's kind of, he's just kind of a regular old ball player that does pretty well sometimes and, has a little bit of a problem. Other times it was that one great season. But now the problem is he's on the biggest stage ever and he's got one of the biggest contracts ever and it's not panning out. And so he's a victim of circumstance. But if he's not careful, he's going to find a permanent placement on this list.
Yeah, I agree.
Because of the dollar sign.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem with these overrated lists is that some guys, it's no fault of their own. Like, yeah, he took the money, but it was offered to him.
Can't blame the guy for taking the money.
Yeah, and I said that Bryce Harper was overrated, but it's no fault of his own. It's simply because of all the attention he got. He was never going to be able to live up to that. So
never.
Yeah,
I know.
And it's just a circumstance with some of these guys.
And look, they're decent ball players.
Yeah.
Right? And they're gonna probably be great clubhouse guys in the future with some significant leadership capability, a lot of influence. We all know Giancarlo Stanton's gonna have a career after baseball. We don't know what it'll be.
Right.
But the dude he's active on social media. He's building his presence outside. Trevor Bauer's the same way. Who cares? Listen, Trevor Bauer, whether he becomes great or or tanks or whatever. It doesn't matter, and I don't think he'll tank, by the way. And I
Right.
love Trevor Bauer,
Yeah.
but he is developing himself outside baseball, and I think Giancarlo Stanton is doing something very similar. And so I think they're going to be fine outside baseball.
Yeah, I agree.
So I can't blame them for taking the money. No fault. But I mean, as far as their numbers and all that, I think Stanton is currently overrated. Now, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Let me
Who's
give you
number
my
one? Who's your top?
My number one. This is my initial nomination on the VIP group's poll. Actually, is a Yankee, and I don't know if that's because I'm more familiar with the Yankees or whatever. I don't know, but Phil Rizzuto. I know that I'm going to get a bunch of backlash from some Yankee fans. I got it. But listen, Phil Rizzuto is overrated. Okay, he had one great season. He was an MVP one time, and that was 1950, and that's it. That's it. It took him almost 40 years to get into the Hall of Fame.
There's probably a reason for that.
That's shocking. The fact that he made it at all. He had 13 years in the big leagues. He only hit over 300 two times.
Yeah. He's a lifetime 273 hitter.
That's right. So his defense was great. But I feel like, and maybe this is the real problem. Maybe the problem is he played shortstop in pinstripes. Now, that's a problem.
Yeah, it
So-
is. But I don't feel like you can be a 273 hitter and get in the Hall of Fame based on your defense. That doesn't jive with me.
It doesn't add up, and it's upsetting, and that's okay. I don't know, man. I think the fact that he was born in New York maybe has something to do with it. For its notoriety, he's the hometown
Maybe.
boy.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said there. Here's the real thing: he won 7 World Series championships with the Yankees.
And all that at 5'6".
Right, 7. And he was a 5-time All-Star because of his defense. He was a Player of the Year once, and he won that MVP. But the point is, I think when you add up all his numbers, we're looking at an overrated player.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Based on everything that
I'd
I'm
say.
looking at right now. I mean, he did miss 3 years in the military, and I feel like those are crucial years. Those were crucial years in his career. But at the same time, I mean, there were a lot of guys who missed because of the military at that time.
Well, and they were his year 25, 26, 27 age years.
Yeah.
So you're right. They're crucial. But at the same time, played all the way till he was 38.
Yeah. Yep.
So there was plenty of time to make it up. I don't know. Plus, the baseball was a little bit different back then, the 50s and 40s and 50s and all that. But the point is, I think Phil Rizzuto is my pick for the most overrated player of all time.
Yeah. There you go. I can't fault you for that. Don't disagree.
Thanks, man. Well, that's great because I'll just continue to boo you, and that's fine.
And that's fine. I'll accept that. I'll allow it.